I'm working on my writing lately because
Mm-hmm.
I can always make it work if I'm just like in the moment and like riffing and having fun. But the second I sit down and put pen to paper, like a lot of times that's where I have the
Get
most
the fuck
issue.
out of here, dude.
Yeah, I think it's
If
because
you
like
didn't tell me that, I would have never known. I thought everything you had said was just like,
I think
bits.
I have a big habit of like of when I'm like working into like something that I've like been thinking about or working on, my like, and I'm like, I've almost broken the habit, but my tone will change and people can hear that. You know what I mean? They're like,
yeah,
oh,
100%.
I hear this piece of shit going into written material.
I feel that.
And the biggest trick really is always JP would like always get mad at me because I'll test jokes out on them, but I won't preface it with like, hey, what do you think of this joke?
You just
like,
go right into it.
Yeah, you're talking and then
Yeah.
it's like, oh wait, that makes me think, and then and it pisses JP off so much. JP's like, no, I want you to tell me when. I don't want you to trick me. I'm like, that's the whole art is
Yeah.
like making them think that like this is the first time you're saying it, and like when I think about that, I'm like, that's always the most fun thing to me is like, what has this room been talking about? What does this person look like to me? That's always the more interesting thing to me than like my thoughts on the world or whatever.
Wow. So that's
like-
your process then? When you is this your process?
If
when
I
you go
could call
into
it
a show?
a process with a show, like lately, what I've been kind of just like, because the best stuff, anybody I think will tell you with stand up is like the best stuff you always just like comes to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you're almost like, I don't have to take this to a mic. I know this is funny. Like I know this will
Okay.
work. And then it's a lot like what I used to say was it's like sometimes you're given a house and you're like, oh, sick. Like I can live in there. And other times you're given the materials to build a house. That's what it feels like to me all the time. Is like, okay, how do I make all these pieces work together and like build this house, build this joke? And other times they're just like, oh, you got like a killer bit, just sitting here and thinking. It just kind of hits you like God, you know?
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know. The process is ever changing. I just want people to remember what I say and think it's funny, and then get it out of their head.
So like you were talking about like a 10-minute set. And that 10-minute set, how much of it is kind of riffing, and then how much is it written material? Or
I think the best stuff always is like performers that stick out to me are like I love Rory Scovel. Like I love Rory, and Rory's a great example of someone who's like. He really toes the line between like improvisation and like this written out like philosophical idea.
Oh, wow,
but it never feels like that. It feels like this is just like this silly guy who is talking.
Right.
None of it ever feels planned or anything like that. So on shows, usually what I like to do is like open with a bunch of riffing, and then whatever the first thing that I think of that is written, like I'll link that joke into whatever I was saying.
holy shit, dude!
Like I write out
crazy.
I write out like a set list in case I'm like,
Right,
okay,
yeah.
these people don't fucking like me. I'm going to go to the math jokes or whatever. And then, but like most of the time, like when I'm having the most fun and when I think people have the most fun watching me is when I'm just up there goofing and riffing around and talking to people. Cause it should always feel like a conversation with the audience, right? Like that's the art, but like,